What's up, Bitcoin Radio? It's your man, Joe Blackburn. I'm coming at you with another awesome episode of Bitcoin Radio here at WBTC, where Bitcoin lives. I hope everybody's been enjoying the shows and having some fun listening to Bitcoin Radio as the process and as the length of this show has existed since only August. We've been having a lot of success and a lot of awesome people. And today is no different. As Ashlie Meredith joins us, I have the privilege of not even just calling Ashlie like a coworker or a colleague. She's also cool enough to be my friend, or I should say I'm cool enough to be her friend. What's up, Ashlie? How have you been doing?
Thanks, Joe. I feel honored to be on Bitcoin Radio and to be called your friend.
It goes both ways, though, as I noted.
I really wanted to get on and say long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yes. Yes.
As I've been with you since the inception of Bitcoin Radio.
That you have, Ashlie. And, you know, we'll get into a little bit of your background. But as I did say, she's my friend. But our story actually starts about almost a year and a half ago or so, huh, Ashlie? When I first was introduced to Patrick, it was maybe within that first week that I was introduced to you. And clearly I know how well you and Patrick work together and how much you offer MouseBelt as you're a founding member of MouseBelt. But I was introduced to you as the the program director for the university. Is that right?
Yeah. The university program launched about the same time that the accelerator launched. So last May.
And you've been running that from about the start. And, you know, I was really fortunate to kind of meet you at that point as the university program was really just getting its feet on the ground. MouseBelt University, for those of you might not be familiar with it, but I did an interview with them last year with the three students, one from Duke, one from Florida, and one from UC Santa Barbara, I think, right?
Yes, definitely UCSB.
Yep. And that was just an awesome experience to have them on. And, you know, your influence and MouseBelt's influence was absolutely felt. They spoke so highly of you even prior to that interview. But mainly what I've been so impressed with is just your ability to kind of encompass so many different things at once, because you got a lot more going on. The Blockchain Alliance that's just recently popped up with some huge names. I know we'll talk about that, but there's a bunch of things that you've been doing. So let's just kind of rewind a little bit and let's hear about who you are, where you're from, how'd you get into crypto?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Bitcoin Radio. My name's Ashlie. Grew up in California, met Patrick a decade ago or so, and I've been working with the team at MouseBelt for years in Silicon Valley, building startups. We had the experience of being invested in a seed round by an accelerator. So I got to see firsthand, learn about the world of VCs, startups, tech, and we had the engineers that they'd created relationships with over the years of building cool projects in the Valley, and really got into blockchain recently. And Patrick's been telling me for years, you got to, or for a while now, you got to join on with us. You got to start getting into this blockchain stuff. And it wasn't until a year and a half ago when I was in between teaching jobs. So I'm a university professor in philosophy. I was teaching philosophy at Portland State. And he called me up and said, I have this idea to try to reach student developers and students who are interested in blockchain. And, one of the core things that I love to do is work with students. So it's been a crazy ride ever since.
I mean, how cool is that you get to incorporate both your love for teaching and your involvement in the university and with blockchain? I mean, that's really cool when you can mesh and merge the two things that you love the most.
Yeah, honestly, I get a lot of surprise responses about, you went from being a philosophy professor to blockchain, but actually I've been feeling like it's a really natural transition. I mean, the minute that you start a conversation with a no-coiner about what money actually is, you're having a philosophical conversation. Wow, that's breaking down their ideas of maybe they've never even considered it before, how strange a trust-based financial system is.
True.
So that's always really fun to have those conversations with new people to crypto. And then as well, my passion for helping students and supporting educational initiatives and actually knowing how to, build and grow curriculum has been really applicable.
No, that actually really, until just that moment, I didn't even really put that together the way that you just explained that, how much faith you got to have in the system for it to work, and how that is a philosophical conversation that starts. So I guess you're probably one of the most equipped people to have that conversation just based off your experience and knowledge on how you teach this information just in the college setting. But what is the basis of that? How do you start on a personal level? When you have that conversation, what is it that you try to maybe influence or put over, in front of them first for them to understand?
Actually, I only just thought of it now, but, maybe taking a lesson from my teachers, which are philosophers, and trying to tell a story. So, imagine that I want to make sure a good or service or a item gets to you. How do I ensure that you receive what I need you to have? Well, the most secure way, the 100% way that I know that it got to you is to do it face to face.
Sure.
And as society grew larger, as bartering systems became more complex, you can extrapolate and add layers onto that story and try to have a discussion about the importance or the difference between privacy and security. And then you talk about what immutability means and what a distributed ledger would be.
I've never even gone through that process of how humankind went from seashell to seashell or seashell to spearhead, right? Then all the way to buying goods off Amazon, right? I mean, like that's there's layers and layers, and those layers have gotten very thick and very complex, as you noted. So again, and I know, I've got a chance to get to know you and been able to consider you a friend now for some time, but there's so many different things about you that have given you the ability and the experience to not just say, hey, I'm here, I'm doing this, but who's better than me at this? And I know that you're not the type to say it like that, but you've done a lot of really good things and a lot of great things for this space already. And it's kind of been on the quiet level, but you're starting to, I recently was able to share your video when you did the interview on my Facebook, and I was very impressed with that. And I was like, man, I was so mad that I didn't get to get you on first,
Yeah, but, how was my debut video interview? Awesome. Not with Bitcoin Radio, though.
I was so mad it wasn't with me. But that's okay. I was very proud of you. And I thought nothing but like how natural and how easy it was for you to be able to speak and explain yourself and to have that conversation. And that's not something everybody can do. And so you do a lot of different things. And most recently, we heard a lot about the cow stuff. And then we had, and we'll get into that. And then also the Blockchain Alliance. And I really want to touch on the Blockchain Alliance first, and then we'll get into the university program and whatever else it is that we need to speak about. Let's start with Blockchain Alliance. What even is it?
So the Blockchain Education Alliance is a new initiative we just launched. We, gathered our partners around and kind of did a big push. And it was really awesome to see the response that we got in the crypto and other outlets. Basically, we're trying to build a network of industry leaders who are interested in building their developer communities, but above and beyond just trying to expand their reach, have a similar ethos with us, which is that the only way that we're going to elevate the kinds of projects that are coming out in the space, the kinds of projects that are being built on their protocols, the only way that projects are going to be built faster is if there's more developers interested in blockchain, more students choosing careers in blockchain, more passionate individuals who like to build and break stuff like students and things like hackathons, even knowing about these protocols, or there are some that are particularly easy for people to develop on top of, and the kinds of applications a student might have an idea about, they don't even know about this blockchain. So not only that they want to, do community building for community building's sake or for their own self-interest, a real understanding that the future of the blockchain space depends on education.
No question. So, and I know you've been working very hard on this, you and a lot of the other folks, but who all is involved in this?
Yeah, so Patrick, who you've had on the show multiple times, from the inception, he had the intuition that a lot of innovation comes from universities, and there were probably a lot of students interested in this stuff, and recruited my help with all of my background navigating the sometimes overly bureaucratic world of interacting with research institutions. And then just working closely with him for the last year and a half, and recently with this alliance with the industry partners, bringing on Adam Leon on the team, who's been kind of our boots on the ground in San Francisco since the beginning. He is always here. We have Blockchain Center SF, the event space. We're doing fireside chats with our CTO and some of these platforms and protocols, and just the relationships we've been trying to build in the space with events and supporting universities, and also our engineering shop. We have a engineering shop that will build for these projects. So
yeah, it's amazing.
Through all of this time of all the different places that we've kind of touched in the space, we've made a lot of really great relationships. Adam's been instrumental in that. And so we kind of just brought them all in.
Yeah, no. And so obviously the list of partners has gotten pretty extensive and pretty deep. And, some of the awesome names and awesome projects that are attached to that are, something that I think you should be very proud of. And I'll let you kind of tell a few people like who they are, and of course, why they might be part of this, or what the goal is for their involvement.
Yeah, we're definitely adding more partners. So that list is only going to increase. And we welcome people to get in touch with us if they share that ethos I was just talking about. If they have plans or concerns about engaging with students to come join us. But yeah, some of the biggest names in crypto right now, right? Tron, Icon, Hedera Hashgraph, Stellar, Ethereum Classic Labs, among others, and more forthcoming. If I can keep going, what I found interesting in having all of these initial phone calls and kind of trying to onboard people into, hey, let's have an exploratory, non-exclusive, collaborative effort to think about how can we shape the future of blockchain education. And what was interesting and kind of proof of concept for us was that everyone's kind of having the same idea. And I think that could maybe go back to something you and I have discussed before about how the perception is there. It's very well known that there's a lack of resources for students looking to learn blockchain development just because it's such a new technology. The facts are all there. People know that. And all of these companies were starting to think the same thing as us. Like, we want to get more on the ground level, grassroots. How do we engage student developer communities? And a lot of them had plans in the works, but unfortunately, not everyone has the bandwidth. Not everyone has a full-time salaried person whose title is university director. And so I think the value that we can bring is that I've been building these relationships for over a year and a half now. And when you have something like universities, there's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of, students graduate, people go home for the summer. Things kind of just move really slow in academia. Absent-minded professors not answering their emails for a week. I used to be one of them. So having MouseBelt kind of serve as like the catalyst and a center point or a meeting point for people with these concerns, and being able to keep all of those connections alive.
No, yeah, that's incredible. And, just the list of partners, when I first saw it, and obviously I've been, privileged to kind of watch from the inception, and on this level, watch you guys build this up and really bring it to the public. I've been super impressed by a few different, things. And, mainly was the ability to get these bigger names who saw the value in this. And there's even more I know for a fact that you can't even name right now that are close to or about to in some level to joining the alliance. And I just look and see how important that cohesion is to kind of build, when you call it a blockchain education alliance. I mean, like, it really is like, it's, hey, this is separate from competition. This is us trying to get together, trying to find this, or at least maybe fill this void, might be even a better name for it. And that's just going to allow so much more continuity as the blockchain projects become bigger, stronger, and more relevant to today's day and time outside of crypto. And we're talking about on a actual, real life level. And it really does start with the students that are in school right now, the ones that are learning. And I know that's something that you have a passion for, that you, as you noted a couple of times in this interview already. But let's talk a little bit more about the MouseBelt University program. As director, as someone who's kind of seen as boots on the ground, as you called Adam, you're the boots on the ground when it comes to all these universities, and they're all over the place. On both coasts. Not just this country either. I think you said that isn't there somebody in Europe as well?
Yes, definitely. I think it's maybe 14 or 15 countries now.
Wow. 15. That's a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
So clearly you've been busting, your butt trying to get all these universities on board. But what has been some of the biggest, obstacles that you've been able to overcome? Like, what are some of these? I mean, like, is the interest level really high from these schools, or is this something that they have pushback immediately from?
I think, kind of maybe going through the timeline of the program and what we learned and how we've pivoted or grown in response to discovery, right? We started with an intuition, and then we did the research, and then we saw what came back, and we changed course. When we started, for one, I spent about a month talking to 35 different student blockchain organization presidents from schools in the US and Canada. And I kind of heard the same thing. Here's how it went. Like, there was a lot of interest in Bitcoin. People started Bitcoin clubs. People started getting interested in the tech, and they would even just change the name from the Bitcoin club to the blockchain club. And then as these clubs grew, some got more sophisticated and started kind of even having different divisions where they would do education, investment and engineering, or different combinations of different verticals within the blockchain space. So, and then another thing that I heard over and over again was that because they were student organizations, there's not a lot of access to funding. Because it's such a new technology, there aren't a lot of official courses. There's just not a place for the students to find the resources. And even sometimes they were being met with opposition, or at least like disinterest or apathy from the engineering departments. So there are some students who would be doing full classes 3 hours a week in the evenings during their free time for their friends. And then, maybe some schools will offer course credit, but the students are teaching it. So we thought right away, let's skip the red tape and the bureaucracy with trying to form like official partnerships with engineering departments and all that could go with that. And go and try to elevate the activities of the people who are actually building this stuff. So, right away, we just selected 13 schools in the US to start funding events with, and just getting on a lot of phone calls and seeing what they were interested in, and sponsoring a couple hackathons and workshops. We were able to fly some students to Korea for an international hackathon. Wow. That was probably one of the coolest moments in my life.
Did you get to go too?
I lived in Korea that year, which is
no kidding. I did not know that.
Yeah, me and Maria from the team, we lived in Korea for 2 months to kind of see the scene there. We have a partnership with Bitcoin Center Korea is in Seoul. There's a Bitcoin Center. There's a big giant Bitcoin sign in downtown Itaewon. And you can go hang out in a co-working space there, which we've kind of replicated here in the US. In San Francisco, the office that I work out of is called the Blockchain Center SF. And if you do a little Google, you'll see the giant Bitcoin sign in the sky.
That's right. That's right. And y'all got a big week coming next week, right? With the San Francisco Blockchain Week.
Yes. Yeah. Everyone who's connected with Bitcoin Radio usually sees posts from us at MouseBelt. Stay tuned for our full list of events.
No, that's really cool. And of course, I'll be making sure that we post these things on both CCT and on Bitcoin Radio's Facebook page. But if you're listening to this and you want to know more, if you're in the area or if you want to go, obviously I'm not going to be there. I'm going to be in Vegas for Vegas Blockchain Week, which is a little bit more social. It's not nearly as tech oriented, I don't think. But that's not to say that there won't be tech. I don't want to take anything away from Vegas, but I'm very jealous that I won't be able to do both and I can only do one. But let's even talk about, about what your experiences have been in the past to where you are now with the students. Have you seen this evolution of acceptance in the role that blockchain is starting to play in the university sector?
Yes. Yeah. So, we were able to do some good work and just a lot of goodwill for the community, just, kind of exploratory and really supportive of whatever the students wanted to do. And then grew a lot in the second semester of the program. We did a ton of outreach. We're at over 70 schools, or students from 70 schools have interacted with our platform. And, we do surveys, we'd get on calls with all of these people. And we built a whole educational platform to allow students to take courses and get on office hours with us. So that's one of the things that I think I have started to see is the most valuable to these students, especially given the lack of resources on their campuses, is to actually talk one-on-one with someone who knows what they're talking about. Because even some of the professors at these schools are, maybe know a lot about distributed computing and, obviously they're PhDs in computer science and are very intelligent, but don't actually develop blockchain. They're not blockchain engineers, but they can run a course about a computer science topic, especially with help from more knowledgeable students. So I think that's one thing I've seen has been the most valuable, and something that I hope our Blockchain Education Alliance partners will really take the opportunity to do is to do one-on-one or a lot of like webinars and just like communicating with them in an open format where they can learn from you.
What do you think is the future for these programs? Like what is the scalability? And obviously, I mean, a lot of this is unknown because the blockchain is going to scale at a rate, I believe, that's going to just surpass what everybody's expectations are for the most part. But where do you see this going? What is the end result?
Yeah. So, students are all doing great work, but there is a lot of universities that have entire blockchain labs. I mean, you can think of any of the major universities in the US as standouts. MIT, Stanford, Berkeley. Berkeley blockchain has been, kind of a gold standard there. But as our program has progressed as well, we've also expanded our conversations to start having conversations with researchers and administrators. So another big initiative that we pushed recently was the UC Blockchain Initiative. And, we chose UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, and UC Davis to work more closely with because the students in those blockchain organizations on campus had been super active with our program, really willing to engage with us and learn from us and build with us. So we came to them and said, if there's some more cross collaboration, you could have as much or more impact than Berkeley. And also, kind of a geographical benefit to start with, like to start a program like this there, because we're based in San Francisco. Our CTO, Galen Danziger, is a UC Davis alum. I'm going to be speaking at the conference at UC Santa Barbara at the end of November 23rd. So we just have a really good relationship with those schools. And we started really making an effort to talk to the administrators and the entrepreneurial organizations. A lot of schools have their own on-campus accelerators and the engineering departments to say, hey, we're going to set aside a specific fund exclusively to invest in student projects that come out of these 3 schools, $500,000. And we are also going to build this Blockchain Education Alliance to help bring on research dollars and fund some of the research going on, which will be, with the complications with intellectual property and state-funded schools can get really complicated. Imagine. So anything done on the research side has to be donation based. But we've already received and reviewed some of the projects that these schools are working on, and the few professors who are doing research in blockchain are doing some interesting things. So.
No, I can really, see how awesome that style. And I mean, again, I can only imagine what it's going to look like 3 years from now, right? I mean, or even a year from now, as the interest level grows and as people start to understand this more. So, what have you seen as like the average student? Are these all going to be computer scientists that just happen to think this, or are you seeing a very broad picture of the type of student that is interested?
It's actually something that's been exciting me the most about getting to do what I do. Is I have this quote that I love from The Truth Machine, The Blockchain and the Future of Everything, written by the guys who wrote The Age of Cryptocurrencies.
Cool.
Paul something. Anyway.
Paul A. I like Paul.
Something about, getting blockchain right is going to take input from all sectors of society. So take this as a clarion call to take an interest and to get involved.
Sure.
And that's the epigraph I use for my blockchain leadership course that I do, which is just kind of guiding students into like how to start a club, how to confidently and competently talk about these things and teach other people, because that's what it means to be a blockchain leader. And I when I first was hired for this position, I started reading that book. And as a philosopher, I thought, okay, how do I respond to this clarion call? Why should I be interested and why should I get involved? So in my conversations with students, they're just such a diverse background and from all over the world that it's just really fun for me to see what opportunities there are for people, how many jobs that crypto has created, how many places for people to talk about what interests them, like, philosophy and politics. I get to talk about that. Media. I know, I talked to a student the other day in Australia who expressed that there's a particularly negative perception of cryptocurrencies in Australia that they're combating, and he wants to start a media company. He's a big fan of yours, he's already building online communities. So, there's media opportunities. And I think that's to bring it back a bit to the Blockchain Education Alliance partners and this thing that we saw of like potential competitors, getting on calls together and signing their names to a group like this, which is moving away from like pessimism and seeing opportunity in the blockchain space and how many opportunities there are for jobs, wealth creation, fighting inequality, all of those things. So yeah, I mean, just to put some numbers on it, I think it's what you would expect, about 60% computer science or like an electrical engineering or other kinds of science, computer science-based majors. And then there's a surprising amount of philosophers that I run into. And I started a fun directory for myself called blockchainphilosophers.com. So it's all of the philosophers that I have encountered in the space so far.
Cool.
Law students, I would say maybe like another, 20, like a large percentage of them are finance and business. But yeah, really, really diverse group of individuals who are in the space because they care about different things, very different things.
What's so awesome to me is like when you, especially the people who are really starting this 2-3 years ago, before it was like, even before Bitcoin's price had gone up, right? And there you had people who are working on blockchain projects and really trying to bring about, this awareness and this transparency on college campuses. They were really rewarded with a lot of publicity, and they look like geniuses, even more so than they actually are, when Bitcoin went to $20,000, right? And so
Right.
we got a lot of attention, a lot of new interest, and a lot of people were able to kind of get just their interest was jump started based off of those things, and with the altcoin boom, et cetera. But the end result of that was has been and still has been, since it has been, pretty negative, right? It's not been the greatest for these altcoins in price, but there's a lot of really awesome projects, regardless of token or regardless of price or regardless of an ICO. Whether they did or did not is almost irrelevant for some of these things, because they're busting their ass, working hard, grinding through this winter for them, and yet are still producing and still coming out with things. And I think about some of the people that I've got a chance to meet, the ones that have really cared and the ones who've stuck around and through this. And these people they're going to be rewarded one day with jobs with IBM, who's got a huge blockchain interest now. They're going to be rewarded with Microsoft. They're going to be rewarded with these humongous contracts, that are going to be either, whether they absorb a company, whether they're actually hired on as an employee. There's just not going to be enough of them based off of how big and how much the blockchain is going to be. And this is just my opinion, obviously, but it's going to be infused into the tech world very, very soon. And soon enough, I wouldn't even be surprised if every major tech company was involved in blockchain. And in fact, I expect that within the next 5 years.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to be able to announce some non-crypto partners for the Blockchain Education Alliance.
Is that coming?
Stay tuned.
Who is it? I'm just joking. Obviously, I already know that you can't say it.
I mean, I'll be honest that I have heard feedback from students that said when Bitcoin crashed after 2017, so, excuse me, their interest waned. Their clubs shrunk in size, or people who had been around long enough noticed a difference. So like if you want to ask if interest wanes with price, yes, but money
is the great motivator.
As we're seeing in the space, though, the people who are here for different reasons than to make a quick buck on a speculative asset are still around. And these are the people who are going to be writing our laws, who are going to be, the law student who takes an intro to blockchain class is going to do a lot better in a hearing at the house yep. in talking about digital currencies if they took a blockchain 101 class. So the people who care about the things that I think you and I care about, and a lot of people in the crypto space do, and who are in it for that, are still running their clubs at universities regardless of the price. And I've seen a lot more clubs popping up. I mean, it's just only growing. Like, yeah, it's
Agreed. Agreed. No, and it's really you see it like on a the old frog boiling in the pan, right? Where it's getting warmer and warmer, but you're sitting there chilling because you don't feel it changing. But from the outside looking in, even I have seen this. I mean, obviously you've seen the change because you're so involved, but you probably almost feel like you're expecting more at times when it's getting so big and so grand already. And again, the people who are really involved right now, this college students, that the freshmen who just got into a developing course for the blockchain, these people are going to have jobs, and they're going to have jobs at a really high level, and they're going to get paid a lot because there's nobody taking it seriously even now, minus some of the niche groups, and these niche groups are going to, and these are not just random like clubs, these are people who are busting their butt trying to build things just for the fun of it, really. But I look forward to this future. Now, Ashlie, I got a couple more questions I want to ask you, obviously, and we're going to get to some more of this, but what has been your favorite part of this?
Yeah, I think I mentioned earlier, probably one of the most rewarding moments of my career ever in anything I've done was assisting, the relationships that allowed for me to send a female coder from University of Washington to Korea to participate in an international hackathon. Because she specifically told me, I want to represent my school and I want to represent female coders.
I think that's something Bitcoin Radio should cover next time that happens, by the way.
Sure. And so mentorship, the kind of mentorship that I'm able to offer is really rewarding, to take the things that I've learned in life outside of crypto and really use them in an impactful way. Honestly, those kinds of one-to-one interactions are what keep me, going in this space. Is the one student who I was able to connect with a sponsor for this event, or the women engineers who don't often see founding members of startups coming to talk to them one-on-one. Yeah, that's my
No doubt. No,
greatest
and
pleasure.
I'm sure those will only grow in numbers. So as things have gotten to where they are right now, and you've been able to watch progress, you've seen these things happen, you've been able to be there and watch. I like to think that you're an expert in your field at this point. In fact, you're probably one of the very few experts that have any experience doing both, the educational aspect and mixing that with the real tech geniuses that are actually working on the blockchain for jobs and for the future. Do you see this transition getting easier for students to hop in? I mean, like, do you expect some of these schools to literally have major blockchain focused classes and majors even?
I just have to say that it's been my life's dream to be interviewed on a subject on the History Channel or something, where under my name it would say Ashlie Meredith blank expert.
Yes.
So
yes.
If this is that moment, this is awesome.
Blockchain education expert. I'll make sure we put that in the title.
Awesome.
Expert, Ashlie Meredith.
A friend of mine joked that they would make me business cards that just said expert. That would just be my title.
Expert. Well, that you are, and you should feel very fulfilled.
Thank you, Joe. But the question was whether it's going to be an easier entry point.
Yes.
And I think that's something that you've talked with our team at MouseBelt about a lot, with the kinds of campaigns that we want to run and the things that we care about and that we get on your show and talk about, which is how do we make Bitcoin happen? How do we make blockchain happen? Well, everyone needs to own some. And how do we get that to happen? Well, the on-ramp has to be shorter. And so that's kind of drives a lot of our design decisions, I think, when we build things. And then just on a level of introducing students to it, that's kind of what I tried to sell as the importance of this Blockchain Education Alliance, is that college campuses are going to be the first place that a lot of these people learn about blockchain.
Sure.
And we get to shape how it gets introduced to the world. And I think we have a big responsibility, if we care about the things that we say we do, to do in a way that's productive to the space in general and to society, and is equitable and fair and uplifting. And that's why we started Bitcoin Radio, right? Was that we wanted to have a voice. And Joe, you're such a great voice for it as well. I enjoy your interviews immensely.
Absolutely. Well, and fortunately, what we're going to do here on Bitcoin Radio is we're going to start bringing a lot more attention to the education into this platform, and we're going to have. I think right now we're even talking about doing this once a week. Where maybe whether it's live or whether we're doing recordings or both. Obviously. What do you think we should? What do you think? Obviously, I know a lot of these answers, but I'm asking you since you're the expert, right? But what do you think we will be discussing? What are some of the actual subjects that are going to come out of these discussions, and what are we hoping to accomplish?
One of the things, and of course we need to discuss this more, but
of course, yes. This is a broad level.
One of the things I think has been coming up and that is super interesting, and I think will be interesting to a larger audience, is particular interests and concerns of various regions. So there's a lot of attention in certain parts, like a lot of money gets funneled to certain parts of the world, particularly coastal regions of the US. But there's also really great large four-year universities in the Midwest that are doing great things in blockchain,
Sure.
who have different interests, who have a vested interest in agricultural supply chain blockchain solutions.
Absolutely. And that's a huge factor, especially as transparent as this day and age can be. At other times, it can be very easy to hide things, and whether it be, fake purses to where did my eggs come from, right? A lot of people need to know these things,
Yeah. And so being able to listen to those concerns and see what do people in Latin America care about? There's a lot of remittance things going on, right? That people care about being able to send money home
Sure.
easily. Other regions, like us, like I mentioned before, with Australia having a particularly bad public conception of cryptocurrencies and feeling the need to mitigate that through media. That's, one student is seeing. So these are the ambassadors that I have collected, people who've worked with us for a long time, who are always eager to get on calls and work with us and apply to our pitch competitions. We invest in student projects as well. And that's like a large part of the university program, is that we want to find young entrepreneurs and invest in their projects. So these students I've kind of collected as ambassadors for MouseBelt University are the ones who know what's going on with blockchain in their region. They're trying to go to conferences and build their career and meet people and throw their own conferences.
Ashlie, you've been a dear friend. You've been kicking ass in the blockchain world. What do you do for fun?
What is it that they say? Do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life or have any good boundaries between work and fun.
Very true. Very true. Or, some people do what they love and end up hating it.
Yeah, no, not there yet. Not there yet. Though crypto,
I hope you never get there.
Crypto, I've heard, will weather you. I love all the memes on like 1 year after being in crypto, and you're just like an old man now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only 23 and I look great.
I got my first gray hair during this job.
Straight up. Look, I actually hiding as part of it. Look, I got a little white part right here, or you can't see it on. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but I mean, even my beard's going gray. Like, it's getting sick of this, No, obviously.
No, I have non-crypto hobbies. I do.
Well, obviously, you're a philosopher.
Yes, yeah. So I'm always reading some philosophy. I really love to read science fiction. I'm just blowing through Octavia Butler and Ursula K. Le Guin these days.
What is that?
And Ursula K. Le Guin was a sci-fi writer. Octavia Butler as well. She's kind of considered the grandmother of Afrofuturism. So she was a Black writer, and she wrote a lot about xenophobia and used, aliens. And this is what I love about sci-fi as a philosopher is with speculative fiction, you can create scenarios that would never happen in real life, and therefore have a lot of thought experiments of like how and then it reflects back on the current culture, and you have to look at ways that what it means to be human and whether we're doing a good job of it or not.
Well, this is a good place for me to interject Star Trek, because I'm a huge Star Trek fan.
It has to come up in every episode, right?
I try to, right? It's like a Seinfeld episode with Superman references, But I noticed that, like, when I first started watching Star Trek years ago, like, I just watched it for face value, right? And now that I'm older and I've seen each episode like 50 times, I recognize, how important that was for culture. I think, especially in the generations that actually watch Star Trek. They're really usually typically thinkers, people who are deeper and, really conceptualize, I think, these types of interactions that Star Trek has at a high level. And I'll never forget, there's certain episodes that stick with me and that I've always liked. And I'm not going to get any details, but I'll never forget the moment I realized, like, this is what they mean, right? And a lot of people, and I'm very libertarian. I'm for liberty for humans, and I think most people will agree with liberty-based principles. And I at least can explain myself to somebody who may disagree with me typically. But there's such a unifying factor around blockchain and Bitcoin, and it erases so much of the things that we don't or may perceive as different from one another, whether it be different countries, different areas, regions, different races, etc. I swear to you that I've always felt like Bitcoin was that great unifier under all this stuff. That we're going to be able to come together under this hope for liberty under Bitcoin. I mean, that's just kind of been my thought, and that's a little bit of my own Joe philosophy, but very basic, very simple, but very honest.
Sure. I mean, I'll say I've never really understood the tribalism in the crypto space because I haven't actually seen it besides trolls online.
Sure.
Like I don't necessarily understand Bitcoin maximalism either, or the tribalism, because, like I said before, I've been saying, like, different concerns for different people and different philosophical concerns and commitments that make certain blockchain solutions better than others. If you really, really, really care about privacy, Bitcoin might not be it.
Yeah,
if you really, really, really care about speed, what are you willing to sacrifice for what end? And those solutions look different for different products, especially if we're talking about real world use cases. So I've never really understood the tribalism or anything like that.
Before Bitcoin existed, there was I didn't ever hear anybody saying, oh, we need $1 and that's it with the US dollar. That should be it. No, I mean, we have gold, which has symbolized kind of a unifying value, right? And there's other metals, obviously, but gold is the easy example and the most relevant example, I think, as well. But that's Bitcoin. And we have how many different currencies across the world? Some work, some don't work, some will fail. Well, most fiat currencies will at some point be replaced or fail. But nevertheless, I mean, Bitcoin is the gold, but there's going to be so many different operations that happen underneath it. And I'm a maximalist.
There's a lot of precious metals.
Absolutely. I'm a maximalist to an extent, right? I believe that if Bitcoin dies right now, we're going to struggle with the blockchain, period. And so therefore, I want Bitcoin to be first, and I want Bitcoin to stay that way. But I don't want anything else to if something were to take its place, I'm okay with that as long as it maintains or doesn't lose the same symbolic, I guess, point that Bitcoin held. But we don't know what's next, and we don't know what coin it's going to be. We don't know what project or what alt project is going to rise through these altcoin ashes and become something, And for all the people that hate on ETH is still doing relatively well compared to the $6 when I first bought it, right? Especially in price. But they're going to scale. You got a whole bunch of people working on it. The use cases are absolutely relevant. The one thing holding ETH back is the laws. That's like the laws written by humans is what's holding ETH back based on the security, non-security. Somebody's going to figure this out, don't you think?
I wish we had a whole nother episode to talk about what's going on in the legal world in crypto now.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and we're going to wind this up. I got a couple more things I want to talk about, including the quick fire. But let's hit Libra real quick because that is relevant to this conversation and to the time period. And we both were able to kind of catch. I know you probably watched more of it than I did, but old Zuck back in Congress sitting there explaining himself again. So tell me what your high level thoughts were. Like, what are some of the things that you took away from this?
I actually thought it was a very important moment to have on record in this time of our digital age of listing the grievances all in one place. They are serious, and there are a lot of different ways that an unpredictable technological advancement has completely changed our lives. And one of the speakers, put it a great metaphor. He said, "You've taken the box of the political puzzle box, shaken it up, and opened it, and all of the pieces have scattered around. And now we're sitting here looking, where do I fit in?" And it touches everything, right? Anti-discrimination, election, meddling in elections, sex trafficking, and now digital currencies. It's only the latest in a long list of grievances. And I think it was a very serious question put forward of whether the entire company should be dissolved or not. Wow. That's how many things this touches, right? So I think it was really important to hear it all in one place. I think it's really unfortunate that the cryptocurrency conversation is happening on the same stage, because it is the entire hearing is about a lot of different things. It's really unfortunate to have a mischaracterization of the project of cryptocurrency as a whole. The project of cryptocurrency isn't to enable drug traffickers, as a whole. That's a gross mischaracterization. Whatever Libra is trying to do, whatever a digital currency with some basket of currencies that a particular board that Zuckerberg may or may not be on, doesn't matter either. That's not the project of cryptocurrency, full stop.
Sure.
That's Libra.
I love how dangerous people think cryptocurrency is. I mean, how did these crimes ever take place before crypto? I always fail to recognize how people forget that this stuff didn't just start today. It may enable, but so does a cell phone, right? I mean, it's there. I mean, of course, I'm not saying that there aren't enabling factors to the blockchain, and specifically Bitcoin and specifically here Libra would present. But I'm not against Libra. I'm not necessarily for it, but I think it's a really, really important conversation for what's going to shape what's going to happen next, obviously, and how Congress and the U.S. government approaches cryptocurrency in the future.
Yeah. I mean, all really important conversations to be having, and why I really believe that this is now on a national stage, and starting with students and universities, and making sure that people are equipped to understand these issues and talk intelligently about them, and defend themselves and their rights to privacy and their right to trade, their right to engage in commerce is not being taken away under their noses just because they don't know what blockchain is.
Well, I can't wait for our next episode when we do get into the legal aspect and find out what's actually going on underneath this curtain, or this blanket. So, but we'll go ahead and wind this interview down now. Obviously, the fun part's coming, and this is when the whole world gets to find out a little bit about Ashlie. And it's called the quick fire. Are you ready?
I am not prepared, but shoot.
I know, just like you said prior to, like you of all the episodes that you've listened to and watched me do in some capacity, you should have known this was coming.
I know. I forgot until we started recording.
Well, fortunately, I always build it up way more than it is, and I get everybody excited, and then it's just kind of basic questions. But you know what the first one's going to be, and that is,
oh no,
have aliens ever visited planet Earth?
Oh, I find it highly unlikely. I read enough science fiction to know that if they found us, they would eradicate us.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, there's two. They either view us as ants, where I'm not going to go kill an ant on my own. Like, he has to bite me to kill him, right? So unless we're shooting missiles at these suckers, they're not stopping. And we're insignificant. They've already figured out how to replicate like material where they don't have to eat or grow food. They've just been able to put molecules together, I think. But interesting answer. I go back and forth on it. Do you think aliens exist?
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, like, is this in the galaxy far, far away, like Star Wars or Star Trek, or is this Star Wars, or is this like Star Trek? Well, I guess long time ago was Star Wars.
Statistically impossible. I think it would be statistically impossible that we're the only life, because the anthropomorphic principle, right? Because we exist.
I like how you say that.
Exist,
like, I know what that means. Say that word again.
Anthropomorphic principle.
I've never heard that in my life.
Because life does exist, it proves that it can happen in the universe. So if it happened once, I think it's pretty likely. Okay,
so you're a philosopher, and so I think I like having this conversation with you, especially on record, because I think it's really cool to kind of get your unique way of balancing and fitting pieces together here. But as Bitcoin goes and as cryptocurrency exists, humans have been able to kind of prove to themselves also that there was a different way to really exchange value. And my question is obviously, yes, with electricity and with the cost of power, you can put a intrinsic value on Bitcoin. But I honestly don't believe that anybody outside of the miners actually believes that's the price, because you have people who think it should be worth 100,000 based on the speculative rarity. And then you have other people who literally think that Bitcoin is worth zero and it's rat poison. Now, typically I look at those people and say, hey, you're ignorant, you're naive, and you don't understand why Bitcoin exists. But there's some really smart people, and there's really some people that are really well versed in economics and and what the principles of an economy actually mean, and they know how to figure out what value means at a really high level that I'm not capable of doing. But when you have the two extremes, obviously we all kind of find ourselves in the middle. What do you think is truly what the value should be based off of Bitcoin? I know that's pretty deep, but I feel like, in this conversation with that explanation, you should be able to handle it pretty easily.
Yeah. I like thinking about it as a store of value. And I think that it should be based off of how rare it is.
Agreed. Completely, by the way. I hate that I gave you all the answers in my
yeah, I mean, as far as like a daily use case, hands-on, application that's on my phone, speed of transaction, I don't know if it's the answer for as a day-to-day currency, but I really like thinking about it as a long-term investment or a store of value.
Agreed. No, I completely agree. I mean, gold is valued high because it's scarce. It's not like it's in every hole that you dig, right? And it's also, shiny and looks pretty, right? And although you can't see how shiny and how pretty a Bitcoin is on the internet, you could definitely see how shiny and pretty it looks in your wallet, right? when those numbers start adding up. I really look forward to seeing how Bitcoin is used and how it's stored and how it's, it's protected. I mean, like, custody is going to change. It's going to make all these things easier. It's going to make everything more implementable, and we're not just talking about, the basic, transaction, 1 Bitcoin for this amount. We're also talking about what happens when, your home deed is on the blockchain, and now you're storing your home deed on your wallet, right? I mean, that you can't lose your ledger with your home deed on it, right? I mean, people are going to figure this out. It's the nature of humans. Now, moving on, my next question, and this is a very deep question, but we'll make it as simple as possible. But Bitcoin as a political party, yes or no?
No.
Why not?
Like a Bitcoin candidate would run for office and we
Why
would all
not?
vote for them. There's just
Like
not even enough. Satoshi for president. Joe Blackburn for president.
Not yet.
2020.
Ashlie for president.
Yeah, wait, you can run on my ticket.
I'll be your vice president.
Couple years from now.
Or your campaign manager. I'll be White House spokesperson.
I feel like this is just a natural progression from Bitcoin Radio that we're going to start Bitcoin Party.
The Bitcoin Party. I mean, if Patrick has anything to say about it, we will, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But you couldn't see a Bitcoin candidate or a group of us uniting underneath that Bitcoin flag and actually just breaking off and saying, we're not Democrats, we're not Republicans. This is what we value. And this is what the important, subjects are today. And these are less important now. Not saying other issues aren't important, but this is what we value the most. And this is what the future of our country needs, right? Obviously I'm speaking as American, but it doesn't have to be only America. And yes, you're right. There's not enough people, but what if there was?
I would see something more like almost like an ethical tech kind of coalition or something where
what would you call it?
Where it's a party specifically concerned with all of these things: AI, machine learning, blockchain, space, energy. Just people who are really committed to using all this technical innovation and progress and committing to making sure our regulators actually know what they're talking about when they regulate it. I could see that party.
Yeah. So why don't we just call that the Bitcoin Party?
Okay, fine.
You could be the leader.
As long as I'm the leader, I don't care what it's called.
There you go. Here's your expert, everybody. All right. Okay. So a couple more questions and we'll end it with this. And this next one is another Bitcoin question, but Bitcoin can never be $1 million.
Could it ever?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see why not.
Good answer. I'll leave it at that. Who's been your biggest influence in crypto?
Oh my gosh, everyone on the MouseBelt team.
Cheers. Yes. Agreed.
Galen, of course, our CTO, boy genius. Just extremely hard worker, super knowledgeable.
Yes,
been building cool stuff with him for years, and Patrick as well. Crypto Twitter is like a entity. Like if crypto Twitter could be personified, that would be one of my
fair
mentors.
I can actually personally consider crypto Twitter to be very hard to navigate, but it's only because I haven't been in it until recently. And if you're a newbie starting in CT, you're in for a rough, what's the word? Introduction.
Yeah. I've actually really enjoyed seeing McAfee on the show. I was on a boat with him a year and a half ago.
I feel like you've told me that before, but I'm just now remembering. So
I didn't meet him, but I definitely admire the guy. The cruise? It was the crypto cruise.
Yeah.
So we shared a
yeah, you and Mariah, right?
Maria, yeah.
Maria, sorry, yeah. I mean, I don't know why I said Mariah. But you and Maria went, yeah.
Yeah. So it's been cool to learn his story, and the Janice McAfee episode had me in tears.
No, I mean, truly, it really was powerful, and you could hear her in that, and how much that this journey is meant to her. Okay, so we'll wind it down here with this last question, and Ashlie, I've got to make sure that before I ask, why don't you tell everybody where can they find you if they wanted to touch base with you? Oh, I've got to talk to Ashlie. Oh, I'm a university student at the University of so and so, and I want to have my own blockchain club, or I'm ready right now. What should these people do?
Yeah, just check out MouseBelt anything. If you Google Blockchain Accelerator, we are the first thing that comes up on Google. So, but Ashlie, it's ASHLIE at mousebelt.com. MouseBelt.university is our university site. Mousebelt.com. You can find me at Blockchain Week at the Blockchain Center. All things blockchain all the time.
All things blockchain all the time. All right, Ashlie, if you were to write a book about blockchain, what would you name it?
Oh, crap. I feel like this is something I've probably thought about before because we spent so long brainstorming Bitcoin Radio title ideas. Like, I feel like the title of my book is in there. Oh, I told you told me this. And it's going to be my memoir about this time starting businesses in my 20s and 30s, something about, and then we lost our minds.
Hey, how true and how relevant. I love it, Ashlie. Thanks you so much for joining. I really had a great time, and we're going to do it again soon, huh?
Yes. Thank you so much, Joe, for having me. I can't wait to get on again and bring more students on and talk more.
Nailed it.
Thanks for listening, guys. And then we lost our minds.
All right, everybody. WBTC, we're out. Make sure you take care of the cryptoverse. It belongs to all of us. There's only one. And if we lose it, what's going to happen? If you're not going to do it, who else will? Until next time, we'll see you soon.